Hi, Curtis Fletcher here, Prefab Consultants. Going to talk today about this 13 station factory I've got in front of you. And this is kind of a typical factory. We're going to try to cover in this video is just the basics of how the line flows and kind of get you familiar with what happens in a factory. So if you were to walk into a factory, almost any factory would operate in a similar fashion. So in this particular case, we're dealing with a 13 station factory, and we're going to assume that we're going to get 3 modules out the end of this factory each day. And in order to do that, the 3 modules, we're going to get 2.3 hours per station, here, and so on, so that we can complete our work in 2.3 hours for each one of these stations in order to get 3 units out the end. So it happens pretty fast. We've got factories that I've been in that will churn out 6, 8, 10 a day, and it just depends on the number of people they've got working in the factory and what their backlog of production is. So in this case, we're going to deal though with 3 mods a day, 2.3 hours per station, and work with that. I'm also going to just point out real quick what some of these other stations are here. This area right here is the wall and ceiling pre-build tables, and in this area right here, this upper area that I've just outlined, that's where we would have the wall tables. In here, they're actually building up walls that are sheathed on one side. Everything that it takes for one module is built up in that region right there, and they're standing them up in racks over here on this edge, so that once the walls are complete, they can actually then take them and fly them over onto the floor system once it's over in this area. They're also going to pre-build a ceiling or a roof over in this area, so that once the floor moves over into the ceiling roof area, they can also take it, lift it with a hoist, and put it up onto the walls in this region. So that's this little area right here. In a lot of cases, the factories like to pre-build components to the extent that they can to make the production line run smoother and faster. With only 2.3 hours per station, seems like a lot, but it really isn't. You're trying to build a whole portion of the building in that limited amount of time, and if you had to do everything manually or kind of in that moment, it would be impossible. So they'll pre-build components to inject them into the line in certain areas. Sometimes they'll even build them in a separate building, bring them in, and then inject them into the line. But in this case, it's right here. So we've got the roof, the ceiling, and we've also got the racks where we're going to store the walls, which are generally stored in a fashion like that, standing on edge. So over here in the storage area, we're going to see that they would typically take windows and doors and prepare them, uncrate them, prepare them for insertion into the unit. They'll also probably kind of prepare cabinets. If they're box cabinets, purchased cabinets, they'll get them put together and get them ready over in this area here, so that they can bring them into the unit once the unit's there and ready to go. They may have just supplies and so forth back in here for general supply, and then there's generally a pathway that you'll have forklifts that are coming and feeding into this region right here. So all right, enough of that background. Let's move on here and talk a little bit about each one of these stations. Floor framing. In this area, they're actually on a jig, generally speaking. They're framing up the floor system. They're putting in wiring, plumbing, HVAC, anything that would go into that region of the structure. They're putting it in right there. Once they're done with that, they're going to install some dollies along the edges of this thing so that they can drop it down onto the floor and it'll roll into the next station. Once that unit is dropped onto the floor, onto those dollies and rolled into the wall set, again, the walls that were built up and stored in the racks there are lifted with a hoist, and they're brought over. They're set onto the floor system here. They are secured to the floor itself, and then they are secured to each other. At this stage, the module is moved over into the ceilings and roofs. Take that ceiling or roof that was pre-built here, that's actually got sheathing on the bottom side of it. It's been taped and mudded. It's flying over here on overhead hoist and installed on top of the unit right there. Over in the wall area, I forgot to mention, they actually have panelized the walls themselves, but they also sheathed one side with gypsum board. So they're pre-sheathed on one side, which helps expedite the process here in the wall set area. And it leaves one side open for wiring and plumbing to be installed. While it's in the ceilings and roofs, they're actually installing the wiring and the plumbing rough in. So all of that work is being done in this region right here in the ceilings and roofs while it's there. And once the unit is pushed over here into back paneling, it is now ready to have the sheathing or the gypsum board product or whatever is being used on those walls. It's installed here in the back panel area and made ready for the tape and texture and windows and doors. Sliding the unit down here into windows and doors. The windows that were prepared over here that we talked about are now installed into the unit. If there are any exterior doors, those might be installed, leaving one or two openings in there so that which are put in later down the line for those exterior doors, but the workers have to be able to get in here to work, so they'll generally leave at least one of those doors out so that they can do that. Once we move past that, we move into tape and texture. They're actually now going to tape and mask off all of the windows and put the corner bead on, tape, mud, texture, and then paint in this region. A lot of times this section will actually be done in the evenings, or it'll have a little more time for drying and so forth. Once we're out of the tape and texture, moving into exteriors. In the exterior department, they'll do whatever exterior treatment is scheduled for that particular unit. Maybe siding, maybe exterior gyp or something of that sort. Just depends on what the product or the project is calling for. Moving it down into the cabinet section, the cabinets that were pre-configured here are actually moved in to the unit right there. They're actually now installing those with the countertops and getting all prepped, getting the plumbing through, getting any wiring in that integrates with those cabinets is all done in this department. Moving it down into trim and fixtures, they're actually installing plumbing fixtures, lighting fixtures, putting on the wall plates, thermostats, doorbells, all that kind of good stuff is done over here in the trims and fixtures. Touch-up is where the QC department has gone through and done a punch list, and the workers are actually in there and cleaning that unit up, kind of touching up all the paint, touching up the texture, anything that might have gotten damaged in the process is taken care of here in the touch-up department. Then we move into the cleaning area. This is where they're actually going to kind of scrub the unit down, wash the floors if there was tile done or linoleum down or anything of that sort. They'll actually take care of all that stuff, wash the windows, get it all cleaned up. Move it on into the shipping and prep area. They're actually dropping plastic over the outside of the building to get it ready for shipment. It's really important that we don't get these units wet, because if they do, you're ripping off sheetrock, etc., and getting it dried out and doing mold prevention. So factories are typically very conscious of that and do a lot of work to make sure that the unit stays dry until it's until it's set in place and the contractor has control of it. Once we move it into the carrier department, we'll take and lift the unit back up with jack stands, and those are generally out here on the outside, and they're generally a hydraulic jack that'll lift the unit up, and they'll take off the little dollies that were put on earlier. They'll remove those, and they'll take this unit right here, the carrier, they'll back it in underneath this module. They'll drop it back down, they'll secure it to the carrier, they'll put on the running lights, and then they'll ship it outside. Once it's out here in the yard, they'll usually line them up, you know, and get a bunch of these things ready for shipment to the project, so everything's ready to go, and then schedule the shipping and communicate with the owner and the site. So all of that essentially happens in a relatively short period of time. Knowing that we're 13 stations, you've got, you know, it's about four days from the time unit starts to the time it's coming out the other side, you know, for each one of these modules. So it's happening pretty quick. So I hope this was fairly informative. I know it's kind of a loose format, and I appreciate you watching. And please visit our website, www.prefabhelp.com. We'll talk to you soon. Thank you.